Good morning, everyone, and here we are in May, getting ready to do the market update for April, looking at how April closed out in our local real estate market. Let me tell you, the market is like no market I have ever seen. As a matter of fact, I was in a continuing education class yesterday, and they were talking about strategies and everything in this market for both buyer and seller strategies. And the instructor for the class was actually Seth Wiseman, who is general counsel for the Georgia Real Estate Association. So there's no better person to take a class from, that's for sure. He's pretty amazing. But he was even saying, of course, I've been in real estate for a little over 17 years, and he's been in longer than me, and said he's never seen a market like this in his career either. So it is a very strong seller's market, which is making it maybe a bit of a frustrating market for buyers, which is understandable because there's extremely low inventory right now, and we're not really seeing that that's going to change in the very near future. We certainly are probably going to maintain some very low inventory levels, at least for the rest of 2021. So from a buyer perspective, it is challenging. It is hard. You're having to come in with very competitive offers. And yeah, that's one of the things I'm going to talk to you about real quick. I hadn't really planned this, but in this market, one of the things that was brought up in the class was, how do buyers compete in this market? And we're going to do, myself, Kylie, Tom, we're going to be doing some videos here coming up, just giving you guys some quick tips on things to think about on negotiating strategies for both buyers and sellers. But as a buyer, I would recommend this. And this is coming from me, Kim Mixon, who primarily manages all of our listing inventory, and I work directly with sellers mostly. So my buyer team, they handle the buyer side of transactions for us, and I primarily handle the listing side. So I am usually the listing agent involved when something's coming in, and Kylie handles some of our listing inventory as well. So from a listing agent perspective who works directly with sellers to work through the multiple offers that are coming in these days, and when I say multiple offers, I mean multiple offers, almost, not everything, but almost everything gets numerous offers. And it's very hard even for sellers to kind of decipher through all the ins and outs. And what is typically the type of offer that is typically winning bids? There are a lot of different characteristics that come to an offer. And again, we're going to do some videos to talk more about that and give you guys more details. But just generally, the cleanest offers, meaning offers that are not muddied up with a ton of special stipulations and all of that, the cleanest offers, the ones most often what's winning is coming in above list price, but key is no seller paid closing costs. In this market, sellers don't have to pay closing costs. And, you know, it's a hard truth right now for buyers because buyers got so used to all these years that it was a buyer's market and sellers were contributing towards closing costs, but we're not seeing as much of that anymore. And the offers that are winning bids in multiple offer situations are often over list price. I'm not telling you it has to be over list price. I'm just telling you what is typically winning the bids. They're often over list price. They've got no seller paid closing costs, and they're not muddying up the contract with a bunch of special stipulations. If you want a home warranty, that's great. Buy it. As a buyer, just buy it. It's, you know, $600 to $700 roughly, but putting that can actually be the one thing that keeps you from getting the contract, that keeps you from being the chosen contract. Something that simple. When a seller is comparing apples to apples, the less stuff that a buyer has asked for on a contract, the better. So understanding those negotiation strategies and how that works is very important if you really do want your offer to be taken seriously and you want to potentially have your offer accepted. So, of course, Kylie and Tom on the team. Tom is the leader of the buyer side of our team, and Kylie works over on the buyer side as well with some buyer clients. they are well versed and truly understand how to negotiate on behalf of a buyer. And often that's what they're trying to encourage their clients to do, is make very clean, very competitive offers. And the other piece of it is make your best offer right out of the gate. Like, if you want to get it, you may not get a second chance at it. Often you're not getting a second chance. Sometimes it's even hard to even get the first chance at it. So come at it with your best offer. And from a listing agent perspective, I will tell you, if you're familiar with escalation clauses, and this is probably a whole nother conversation, but the idea of escalation clauses is a little bit absurd to me. I think it makes better sense for a buyer to just determine what they are willing to pay for the house and make that the offer. This whole escalation clause thing is very confusing for sellers, and oftentimes sellers are not even taking that part very seriously. So keep that in mind as well. If you're willing to pay a specific number for the property, forget about these ridiculous escalation clauses and contracts and just make the offer. And you have a much better chance of getting it that way than you do with an escalation clause. And that's, again, from my experience, and I am very experienced and I know a lot about this process because I work with sellers every single day, multiple contracts a day, and many different scenarios. So that's just some quick information. If you are a buyer in this market, to think about. If you're a seller in this market, congratulations, because it is a great market to be a seller. But it still comes with challenges because it is hard to decipher through all of the different offers and what everything means. But that's part of what I do. And my team, we're very well versed on seller negotiations as well. So, you know, just keep all of that in mind. And we hope that we have the opportunity to work with you if you're going to buy or sell. Another quick thing, this is just a little funny anecdote. Sort of signs of the times and kind of the world we live in. And also it may sort of show you how much voice texting I do, which is a lot. So if you get a text message from me and something seems a little weird about it, it's probably because I was voice texting, because I'm often driving and multitasking at the office and different things. So I use voice to text a lot. But this morning, I was driving into the office, and I typically, more often than not, I say some morning prayers on my way into work in the morning because it's a good quiet time in my car. And so I say some prayers. I pray a lot throughout the day, especially in this market. But I certainly do in the morning, if not while I'm getting ready, certainly on my way, and sometimes both times. So I'm praying, and I find I didn't really realize it, but I was praying out loud, and all of a sudden I realized I was praying and speaking all the punctuation in my prayer as though I was texting God. So I got a good laugh out of that, and I think maybe God got a good laugh out of it this morning too. But it's definitely a sign of the times when you're saying punctuation in your prayers as though God really cares about punctuation. But anyhow, just a little funny thing, and I'm sure we all kind of do those things from time to time. So let's move on to the market numbers and what this market date update looks like for April, how things closed out and going into May. And the long and short of it is the market is great. And one of the questions I get is, oh my gosh, is there going to be a bubble? Is this going to be like 2007? And none of the experts that I listen to from that perspective in real estate are expecting some type of market bubble or crash. Now, at some point, things will level out as interest rates go up, because they will go up. Inflation is so crazy high. And if you don't believe me, just check the cost of building materials right now. And they're not stopping. They're still going up. I think there's another predicted potential like 50% increase on the cost of lumber, and it's already gone up like 200%. Like, don't quote me on those exact numbers, but nonetheless, inflation is high right now. So we do anticipate that at some point some rates are going to go up. They're still very low right at the moment. But we do expect they're going to go up. As rates go up, it'll be interesting to see how that impacts buyers' ability and what they can afford, so their ability to purchase. And does that have a shift in maybe some of the pricing in the market, that kind of thing? Either way, inventory levels are probably going to remain a little bit low for maybe a couple of years. But we'll see kind of how things play out going forward. So again, nothing I am reading or watching or listening to when it comes to predictions in the real estate market are pointing towards some type of bust. So that is good news. Just keep that in mind. So let's look at market numbers. Let's see how April closed out. In Muskogee and Harris County, for the month of April, there were approximately 296 closed sales. Out of those, 99 of them were conventional loans, 89 were VA loans, 46 were FHA, 56 were cash, and there were 6 that closed out with other types of financing. There are currently 266 active listings. Now, this was as of yesterday afternoon. That number changes all day long, every day. And 620 pending sales. So let me repeat that. There were 296 closed sales in Muskogee and Harris County in April. There are currently approximately 266 active listings, and there are 620 pending sales, homes that are under contract, working their way to closing. Wow. 620 pending sales and only 266 homes on the market. Crazy, crazy numbers. Out of everything that closed out in April, the price point breakdown, there were 40 closed sales under 100,000, between 100 and 200,000, about 99 closed sales, between 200 and 300,000, about 75 closed sales, 300 to 400,000, 52 closed sales. Now look at this drop, 400 to 500,000. It dropped from 52 closed sales and 300 to 400 to 12 closed sales in the 400 to 500. That's kind of a big difference that we haven't seen in the market here recently. And that's just a price point breakdown. No specific reason at this point. I don't think that's a trending situation. We'll watch those numbers as we move forward, but that was a big difference. And then from 500 to 1,000 to $1 million, there were 17 closed sales, and there was 1 closed sale over 1 million. So that puts us about 58% of what closed out was between 100 to 300,000. So again, that's been on target since we started doing these market updates over a year ago. You know, that price range is always the leading price range, highest percentage of closed sales in our market, which goes right along with what the average price point is in our market. So out of the closed sales, there were, the homes were on the market from time they got listed to time they went under contract. Average was about 39 days. So, so really short time frame on the market. Kind of a comparison in April of 2020. Now, keep in mind, we were in the early stages of the pandemic and shutdown and all that kind of stuff, but we did have a pretty good April last year. So last year in April, there were 233 closed sales versus 296 this year. However, in April of last year, the average days on the market was about 71 versus 39 now. So you can see things are moving very quickly comparatively this year. So that gives you your Muskogee and Harris County breakdown. Now let's look at Russell and Lee County on the Alabama side. In April, there were 154 closed sales. Out of those, 25 were conventional, 71 were VA. It's a very high number of VA buyers on the Alabama side, which is pretty typical. There are a lot of reasons for that, but some of the driving factors for that are the fact that Alabama does not charge a tax on retirement, on military retirement. So that's one of the differences between Alabama and Georgia. And so we do see a lot of VA buyers who will gravitate towards the Alabama side, especially if they're looking at retirement. Not only are there lower property taxes on the Alabama side, but they are not taxed on their military retirement. So that does drive a higher number of VA buyers in Alabama many times. So anyhow, 71 of the closed sales in April were VA loans. 32 were FHA, 21 were cash buyers, and 5 were other types of financing. There are currently, in the East Alabama Board of Realtors, 121 active listings, which is like so low. Oh my gosh, the inventory it's crazy low everywhere. It's definitely crazy low in Russell and Lee County in our coverage area. There are 330 pending sales. So let me recap that. In April, 154 closed transactions. There are currently 121 active listings, and there are 330 pending sales, homes under contract getting ready to close. I mean, crazy numbers, guys, crazy numbers. Looking at the price point breakdown on what closed out in Russell, Lee County, East Alabama Board of Realtors, out of the 154 closed sales, 16 of those were under $100,000. 60 of them were between $100,000 to $200,000. Between $200,000 to $300,000, there were 58 closed sales. $300,000 to $400,000, there were 20 closed sales, and there were no closed sales over $400,000. So looking at Alabama versus Georgia, our Russell and Lee County versus Muskogee and Harris County, you will see that as you crest over that 400,000 range, on the Alabama side, it's much more challenging. We don't see as many high-end sales on that side. There's also less high-end inventory on that side of the river as well. But it's just statistically over the last 12 months, it's been consistent with that. The high-end market is not as active in Russell and Lee counties. So 77% of what closed in April was between 100 and 300,000. So average days on the market were about 28 days, so super low. And let's kind of look at that comparison to April 2020. This time last year, there were 104 closed sales, and the average time on the market was 71 days versus this year in April, 154 closed sales with average time on the market at 28 days. So that gives you just the breakdown for April and kind of what that looks like. April this year compared to April last year, what our inventory levels are looking like right now. Again, if you are a seller and you're thinking about selling, let's talk about that strategy. Probably one of the #1 questions I get is, where am I going to go if I sell? So that's something we have to talk about. And there are solutions to that, but there's got to be a game plan. And that's what I am here to help you with. If you are thinking selling might be in your near future or even in the distant future, there's still game plans we want to have in place for that. I've got some clients that are aiming to put their home on the market in January. They're not ready to sell and move right at this moment, but they are looking at early next year. So we've actually got some good strategies in place for them to get ready for that sale. And it's not uncommon for me to be working with my seller clients 6 months, a year in advance of them being actually ready to get it on the market. And we do a lot of things to be prepared for that and have good strategies in place. So anyhow, I will leave you with that and let you get back to your Thursday morning routine. Hopefully this information is very helpful. Please like it, share it, comment on it. If there's more information I can get for you, just drop it in the comments below. I'm happy to get you any answers that you need. And I appreciate everyone watching. I see Jason and Mike out there. Thanks, guys. Always appreciate you guys tuning in. And again, we're here to help. So reach out, whether you're buying or selling. Let us know what we can do. Please help us promote this and get better reach by liking and sharing. and commenting below. I'll talk to you soon. You guys have a great Thursday, and going into the weekend, I hope you have a great weekend as well. We will see you again for a market update in about a month. And in the meantime, we're going to be working on getting some videos together for you guys, talking about buyer and seller strategies, trying to help better educate you on what to do, when to do, how to do, all of that good stuff from your local real estate experts, the Kim Mixon real estate team. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.